Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode is the Cleveland Browns offensive line analytics. So we're specifically going to be looking at what the Cleveland Browns offensive line looks like from a data perspective, specifically explosive lower body strength, speed, and flexibility for their size. Explosive lower body strength, just for those that aren't familiar with that score, deals with the vertical and the broad jump for their size. Speed score deals with how fast they are with the 40-yard dash for their size, and then flexibility deals with the short shell / three cone, which deals with just how flexible they are for their size in terms of ankle flexibility and hip flexibility, which speaks to leverage. Offensive line, low man wins is a true thing in the offensive line business, and you want players that at least have average flexibility, because if they don't have average flexibility, if they are really, really stiff, then you're going to have problems in terms of maintaining leverage and those other sort of things. So I just wanted to go through the entire offensive line. There's certain players I don't have enough data on to really speak to. Sean Coleman's one of those players that there is no athletic data for him because he was injured during the process. So I'm just going to do Cam Erving instead, because there's sort of a camp battle, I guess, at that spot. We'll see. But I just wanted to get through the main players on the Browns offensive line right now and talk a little bit about the free agency additions, because I think free agency brought a lot of really athletic players to the table. So these are guys that I think you should be really excited about when it comes to the Browns. So let's get to the list. The first player I wanted to get to was Cam Erving. In terms of athleticism, he had an 89.90 explosive lower body strength score, a 77.36 speed score, and a 90.58 flexibility score. Based on his data, as an athlete, he had the potential to be a Pro Bowl player. And I just want to preface this with the fact that offensive line, or at least athleticism, doesn't mean everything. Athleticism is one variable amongst many variables that make a good offensive lineman. So the fact that Cam Erving hasn't become a Pro Bowl player doesn't mean that, metrics is dumb and metrics doesn't matter, when every single Pro Bowl player has at least this amount of athleticism. I mean, that's the biggest point I think you should take away from data, is, at least offensive line data, is that film matters, work ethic matters, character matters. All these things matter, but you do have to have the physical attributes. You have to have at least the baseline sort of things to be in that upper echelon of types of players. In Cam Erving's place, or at least in his case, he's a great athlete overall in terms of explosiveness and flexibility. He's not necessarily a tackle athlete. This is someone that, based on his athleticism, really fits better inside. It's just that he was developed a tackle, and then he was developed a guard, and then he's just had such a wishy-washy career when it comes to where they've been trying to develop him. He was at center at one point. Like, it's just, it's just been weird. But the bottom line is he is a great athlete. It's just a matter of coaching and him taking the initiative to turn his physical tools into good play at the offensive line position. We'll see what happens. He may not end up being the starter on the team at right tackle. It may end up just going to Sean Coleman, who I don't have enough data on. But I just wanted to get Cam Erving out of the way in that, and just to explain the point that, yes, offensive linemen can be athletic and not be good football players, but if you find good football players who also happen to be great athletes, that's the key. In Cam Erving's, in Erving's case, he is a great athlete who just doesn't happen to be a great football player, and that just may be the case. And that's why there's more to scouting than just athletic data. But I do think that once we get to the other players, you'll start to see the patterns that exist when it comes to athleticism at the offensive line position. Next up, we have a free agency addition. The Browns picked up J.C. Tretter from the Green Bay Packers in free agency, and I think it's a great move. And the main reason why is based on his athleticism. He had an 87.23 explosive lower body strength score, a 94.74 speed score, and an 89.84 flexibility score. You may be going, well, if he's so good, why did the Packers let him go? And the reason why the Packers let him go is because they already have a center in Corey Lindsey from Ohio State, who's also a good athlete. And this is actually Corey Lindsey's athletic data, just to kind of do a comparison between Tretter and him. And of course, Lindsey's a little bit more developed as well. But the bottom line is you got one of the most athletic, if not the most athletic center in free agency, and he can become a long-term starter. It's very much possible. He's been mostly a rotational backup guy at the Packers, who started some, kind of spot starter sort of duties and stuff like that. But I do think that there's enough things on paper. When you just look at his athleticism, he has elite explosiveness, elite speed, and elite flexibility, or at least near elite flexibility for his size at the center position. And I just think this is just kind of a trend that the Browns are going with, trying to get really athletic players at that offensive line position. And Tretter just fits the bill for that kind of thing. So he's one of the free agency pieces that is a little bit underrated because, he has tons of raw athletic ability, and he is a little bit more developed as it is at this point. It's just a matter of him, taking all that stuff and turning it into really great play, and also getting the opportunity to start. So I'm really excited about him, and I think he's going to be a great fit in that Browns line if he lives up to his athletic potential. Then, of course, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Joe Thomas. Joe Thomas, based on his athleticism, he was an 88.52 explosive lower body strength score guy, a 95.42 speed guy, and a 51.16 flexibility guy. As you can see, he hits all the thresholds for all-pro potential. He is a super explosive, super fast offensive tackle prospect who doesn't have elite flexibility, but when you think about the schemes that he's thrived in, he's thrived in these sort of, short, up-tempo passing, kind of West Coasty kind of schemes that the Browns have played with, on top of being great in terms of ZBS schemes. With ZBS, there's an emphasis on explosiveness and short area quickness, and those are things that Joe Thomas has abundance of when it comes to his athletic ability. So it just goes to show that, there's different types of offensive line athletes. You're going to have guys who may not be the most flexible, but are super explosive and super fast, and they take those athletic gifts and turn them into something great. And in the case of Joe Thomas, that's what he's done. When you have this type of explosiveness, you'll rarely find an edge rusher that can get the jump on you. I'm just being honest. When you're this explosive, you don't have to worry too much about edge rushers getting the jump on you. When you're also this fast for your size, you don't necessarily have to worry about edge rushers outspeeding you either, for the most part either. So he just has all the tools to be amazing when it comes to pass protection, when it comes to, being able to deal with guys that get the jump, in sort of those scenarios. He just doesn't do as well, at least he doesn't have the body type to be tremendously efficient as a run blocker, but he has all the things to be a great pass protector, and he's been that, and he's been elite at that. And it's just unfortunate that he hasn't quite had a franchise quarterback, really, to kind of benefit from his pass protection. But we'll see. But the bottom line is Joe Thomas is a model for the type of athlete for one of the types of athletes that you're trying to look for at the offensive tackle position. And I'm super excited that he's still in the Browns. He hasn't been traded. He's still there. And it's just, hopefully, things get better for them so that they can finally go to Super Bowl and give him a ring that he truly deserves as being one of the best offensive tackles in the last 10 years. Next up, we have the much underrated Joel Bitonio, offensive guard, who's there. He is probably, he is the most athletic offensive lineman on the Browns. Based on his athleticism, he had a 91.15 explosive lower body strength score, a 95.81 speed score, and a 98.12 flexibility score. Tremendous athleticism at the guard position. Zach Martin is a great football player. Joel Bitonio is a great football player. If Joel Bitonio played on the Cowboys, we'd be probably talking about him a lot more than Zach Martin. But I just feel Bitonio is someone that, in terms of scheme, because this is the biggest thing. when you have offensive line athletes like Bitonio, it's not necessarily about it's not necessarily about, oh, they're great athletes, so they're going to be amazing, as much as the versatility that gives you. You have a guy who is explosive enough to fit in the ZBS scheme, who's fast enough to be a tremendous guy in terms of a power scheme, and is flexible enough to work in any scheme either way. Like, what being a great athlete really gives you as offensive lineman is versatility. That ability to be used in a variety of ways on the line, in a variety of situations, and even to work as a tackle. He played tackle at Nevada and did a pretty good job of it. And when you have that type of athleticism, it makes sense why he was able to survive at a position like that, considering that his body type isn't traditional offensive tackle. He's not 6'6". He doesn't have 36-inch arm length. But this type of athleticism really makes up for some of those shortcomings, if he was to play the tackle position. But the bottom line is, Joe Bitonio is one of the most athletic offensive guards in the NFL, and there are good things in the future with him for the Browns. And when you add him to all the other guys that I just mentioned, J.C. Tretter and Joe Thomas, the Browns are shaping up to be a really athletic offensive line with a lot of potential to grow in the future. And Joe Bitonio is already a pretty seasoned vet at this point, and I'm just really excited to see what happens this year with him healthy and everybody else healthy for the Browns. And the last player to get to is, of course, Kevin Zeitler, offensive guard out of the Bengals, who you acquired through free agency. When it comes to his athleticism, he had a 71.41 explosive lower body strength score, a 52.55 speed score, and a 76.89 flexibility score. Based on his athleticism, he has all the markings of a Pro Bowl guard. He doesn't quite have elite speed at the guard position, but he does have enough speed to work in a ZBS scheme. And this is the biggest thing I want to preface this, is that when it comes to offensive line athleticism, it's not necessarily about being the most athletic, the sparkiest offensive line, because one of the main criticisms that I have about Spark is all you're really going to find out is that, oh, this guy is a great all-around athlete, but you're not going to find out specifically, are they a super explosive athlete? Are they a super fast athlete? Are they a super flexible athlete? Because you could have a scheme like a ZBS scheme. You don't need to have offensive linemen that are able to run super fast. Like, you're not asking your linemen to pull, like do these sort of really long developing plays where you get your linemen to pull 5-10 yards. You don't really need to do that with a ZBS scheme. You just need them to hit targets very fast, quickly. Short area quickness is a big emphasis when it comes to ZBS schemes, and also having the leverage, or at least the flexibility, to be able to maintain leverage long enough so that the running back finds the hole and gets through the hole in time before that guard loses leverage. So Ziegler has the two main athletics, like he has two athletic skill sets: explosiveness and flexibility, and both of those athleticism traits fit in a ZBS scheme extremely well. If he was in a power scheme, he would probably struggle a tad bit, to be elite in a power scheme. But in a ZBS scheme, he has all the athleticism traits that you're looking for to be a great player in that type of scheme, if not even buck the trend at that position. So I think Kevin Zeitler is a very smart move in free agency. I know he's probably one of the more praised moves in free agency, but you have to realize that, again, this shows a level of intuitiveness at the offensive line position that you don't have to just go after spark athletes. You have to find athletes that have specific skill sets and exploit those skill sets with whatever scheme that you have. And Ziegler fits a ZBS scheme extremely well. And we'll get to sort of what the worldview of this is, but I'm really excited about this offensive line already, based on all the players that we just went through. And then you add in Kevin Zeitler, and it just is like a cherry on top of already really good ice cream sundae. So, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But Ziegler is someone that I think is a great free agency move, and I'm super duper excited to see what the Browns end up doing with him in the future. So in conclusion, when you look at the Cleveland Browns offensive line, the main thing that strikes you is athleticism. It is probably one of the most athletic offensive lines in the NFL. It's not quite the Dallas Cowboys. It's not quite the Tennessee Titans, but they're on the right track. You have a guy in Joe Thomas who brings you super duper athleticism as well, but great veteran presence. Joe Bitonio is probably the most athletic guy on the team, and he brings a little bit of veteran presence as well. Kevin Zeitler brings some veteranness as well, and he is kind of your least athletic guy, and he's a decent overall athlete, especially when you're talking about a ZBS scheme or that kind of role. And Cam Erving is a great athlete. Hasn't exactly been able to translate his athletic gifts into a great football player, but again, that's just to emphasize the fact that athleticism is just one trait amongst many traits that make a great offensive lineman. Being a great technician, being gritty, toughness. These are still traits to look at, to weigh, to decipher. These are things to value. It's just that you need to value everything, not just toughness, not just grit. There's tons of players that are really, really tough players that aren't athletic and don't really become much of anything at the NFL level. But the ones that have the grit, have the toughness, and are athletic, and have great character, and have great work ethic, that's what you're trying to look for. That's what you're trying to find. And I think that the Browns have accomplished that. I think in free agency they got two great pickups in J.C. Tretter and Kevin Zeitler. And I'm super excited about what this offensive line is going to look like in the future. The right tackle position is still up in the air. Sean Coleman is a guy that, again, I don't have much athleticism data to really say much of anything about him. On top of Erving obviously having his struggles in his career despite being athletic, but I do think that you're on the right path, you're on the right track, and it's just something that you have enough positive pieces here in Tretter and Ziegler that I think this is probably going to be a renaissance, if you will, for the Browns line, because they have been a decent line in the past, to a really good line in the past. It's just they've had injuries. Guys have left. Mitchell Schwartz left, and they had a lot of different guys that just kind of Alex Mack too, who left as well through kind of the channels that they went. But I do think that when you look at what the future looks like for the Browns offensive line in particular, I think there's a lot of positives here, and hopefully the data kind of illuminated or emphasized a couple major points as to what they may be looking for, what they may be targeting, what their scouting approach has been. And I think in general their scouting approach has been to get more athletic on the offensive line overall when you look at the moves that they've made. And we just have to wait and see what happens this season, but I'm super excited to see what happens, and I hope you are as well. So again, my name is James Coburn. You can find my work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. In fact, hit that like button. Hit it. If you really like this content, hit that like button. That really helps me out a ton. It lets me know if you like the video or not, so that if you like the video, I'll make more videos like this. Upcoming, I'm going to be experimenting a bit with some things. I know I've been experimenting already with a couple things, but I'm going to be trying to figure out some things to do. I mean, once the season actually starts, I'll have a clear sort of vision of what to do with this channel. But right now, I'm going to be experimenting. It's the off season. I think I can experiment a little bit. Not a lot of people are paying attention, but I do think that I kind of want to just kind of experiment with different types of content and see what you guys like. So, and also let me know down below, what you want to see. I've gotten some feedback. Some of you guys want a mock draft. Some of you guys want, more historical recaps and stuff like that. And I'm definitely working on those types of things. But let me know. Let me know what type of content you want to see more of, or are curious about, and I'll see if I can meet the demand. So again, just let me know, and I will talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.